What's up, y'all? Welcome to our tip section. Today, I'm going to teach you how to properly set up your egg sack rig. The egg sack rig is used for coho salmon, steelhead salmon, and king salmon here in northern Michigan. And it's quite intimidating, to be honest with you, if you don't know what you're doing. But believe us, from our trial and errors, we have it figured out. It is a cold, rainy day here in Michigan. Perfect time to catch salmon and a perfect time to teach you how to do it. Here's our setup. We have a size 2 octopus hook. I went with red because it matches the color of the eggs. You don't have to do that. Our buddy here, Captain Brad Kamalowski, uses black. I like red just because it matches. We have 12-pound fluorocarbon, about 6 feet of it. We've got 2 small split shots, about 10 inches up the line, and we tie this, or I tie this, to 16-pound fluorocarbon, which then ties to my braid. Depending on the depth of the water you're fishing is how high up you're gonna have your float. So this float, we're fishing in Manistee. Oh my God. Can you grab that and untangle it? Just twist it. Great. Depending on the depth you're fishing is going to depend on where you put your float. And we don't have these floats in Florida. It's a weird float. It's got this little rubber thing that comes up and you wrap your line around it. In Florida, with a big snook or a tarpon, if you wrap your line around a float, it's going to break. Here, the king salmon like this float. So I don't even know what this float's called, but you wrap your line around it inside and you roll this little rubber thing over it and it stays there. When it goes down, you've got a bite. This rig has been used by every salmon fisherman that we've seen on the river and at the mouth of the rivers. Everyone's using this rig. So I think it's important to teach you guys what we learned and how to rig it up exactly. And I'm gonna do that for you guys right now. Good?
Yeah, that's good. I like it a lot. Bada boom.
Okay, here we go. As promised, let me show you guys everything that I do. I'm a Florida boy. I tie an FG knot because it's easier to cast. Completely unnecessary. Whatever braid to fluorocarbon knot you want to use, you use that. I like the FG knot just because I like the FG knot and I tie it every day. I've got about 3 feet of 16-pound Cortland fluorocarbon. I ran out recently of 12-pound Cortland fluorocarbon, so I'm sorry, Cortland, but right now we have Seagar 12-pound. All I'm going to do is I'm going to spool out about 4 feet of line, maybe 6. And I'm going to cut it. Once you cut it, I'm going to put this 16-pound fluorocarbon to the side, and I'm going to focus solely on rigging up my spawn line. A big tip for you guys when you're doing this. God bless America with this in my face. A big tip for you guys doing this, I would honestly suggest tying 3 or 4 of these in your house before you get out in the water, because when it's windy, and it's blowing around like this, you got line going everywhere, it's not nearly as easy. So let's get to work. First step is gonna be to tie your size 2 octopus hook up with the egg loop knot. This knot is gonna look relatively difficult, but if you go to our TikTok, we did a stop motion, it'll really simplify it for you. I'm gonna do my best to simplify it for you now. It's almost like the snell knot. You're gonna pull your line through the eye of the hook. You're gonna bring about 6 inches of line down. We're gonna loop that line on the bottom end of the hook. You're gonna pinch it with your left hand, and all you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it over the back and rotate. You're gonna rotate up the hook. I'm gonna go about 8 times. And if you guys can see this, the line is looped from the shank of the hook, or the bottom of the hook, up towards the eye. Okay, now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the tag end back around, and I'm gonna bring it through the loop, the original loop that we held onto. And once I do that, I'm gonna pull that end, and I'm gonna pinch the loops, and I'm gonna pull everything together. It might look a little messy at first, but when it comes together, it's actually a thing of beauty. So you're gonna cinch that all the way up to the eye. And it looks just like a snell knot. But the cool thing about this knot, once you cut your tag end off, is that you're able to slide this knot that looks like a snell knot down the shank of the hook, like so. So I can slide this thing down, and now I can push the original 12-pound fluorocarbon through and make a loop. This loop right here is gonna hold your eggs. You get your eggs inside this loop right here, my finger's gonna be the eggs, and you can pull down on it, and it holds the eggs right there at the hook, and the hook will sit there right on top of the eggs So when a salmon comes by and eats it, you're hooked up. Step 2 now is gonna be put a weight or two, a split shot or two, 10 inches to a foot up the line. That's gonna bring this egg loop and this egg sac that you're floating down to the strike zone. Depending on the depth of water, I go as small as I can. These are more for river. The 735Bs are more for river, you know, in 1 to 4 feet of water. And I'll go up to 735 3/0 split shots for the mouth of the river because we're fishing more 6 to 8 foot. In Manistee, the water's about 6 feet deep in these holes that we're fishing. So I'm gonna take 2, about 10 inches up the line. And I've heard that teeth are jewels, not tools, but in fishing, ladies and gentlemen, they're tools. And all I'm gonna do is pinch it on there. 1, and I'm gonna put the other one right above it.
Why don't you use your Premios?
Yes, Jim, it's a very good point. He makes a very good point. Why don't you use your Premios? The answer to that question is I didn't think of it. I probably should. So let's take the other weight, our second weight, and let's put it right up here, and we'll pinch our split shot right onto the line. And there we have it. We've got 2 split shots, about 10 inches up from the hook. Now, the fun part. How do you tie this 12-pound fluorocarbon to your 16? Again, that's your choice. The FG knot is a terrible option because the FG knot's used to tie braid to fluoro. So we're gonna keep it simple and we're gonna go uni to uni. And all my friends at Florida are gonna laugh because I don't like the uni to uni, but Florida fluoro, we're going with it. So all I'm doing is I'm doubling up my line. I got about 8 inches of line here, 8 inches of line here. I'm gonna take this bottom 16, wrap a loop, and I'll bring it through both lines 4 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I'm gonna pull it tight. Not too tight, but I'm gonna pull it tight. So you see the knot there. Now I'm gonna go up about 4 inches, and I'm gonna do the exact same thing, looping the 12, and I'm gonna go over the 12 and the 16 again. I use my mouth for this one because I'm not ambidextrous. 2, 3, and 4. And now we got that, and I'm gonna pull that tight as well. Now what you're gonna have is you're gonna have 2 knots with 2 lines in between them. I'm gonna lubricate this with my spit, and I'm gonna pull down, and I'm gonna cinch it tight. Now we've got it cinched tight, I'm gonna cut my tag ends off, and we have the perfect setup. The final part of this is gonna be your float. You got 6 feet of water. You want about eye level, if you're 6 foot tall, to the ground before your float. So this, where my UD knot is, right below it will be the perfect place for that float. And now we are ready to hook up a piece of skein in this egg loop knot and get fishing. Check out our TikTok if you want to see the stop motion version of these knots. Otherwise, I hope this helps.